Matching a brand's look and feel is hard enough. Doing it for a shoe brand that is built on style, attitude, and movement, that's a whole different challenge on its own. You probably watched a New Balance, Nike, or Adidas spot and thought, my work doesn't feel like that yet. Your shots might be clean, your lighting might be strong, but something about it doesn't match of these high-level campaigns. Shooting spec projects like this lets you test out new ideas, get out of your comfort zone, and build work that pushes your portfolio. I've used Spec Work to land real campaigns for brands like Foot Locker, Arc'teryx, and even Nike. With this New Balance spec, our goal was to capture the same energy and production quality you'd expect from a national campaign, but adding in our own style and flair. I'm going to take you through every step of the process, from developing the initial concept, pre-production, lighting plans, and the actual shoot day. The goal of this video is that you'll not only understand how we made this piece, you'll even see the full production budget and really learn what it takes to shoot a commercial. This is how we shot this. To be successful in any creative field, you have to have a portfolio to prove that you can execute on ideas with your own creative voice. But that portfolio can take years to build, with limited opportunities to create something that really defines who you are and where you are in your career. This is the power of spec, and for the last 3 years, this is what I have been doing to get jobs that I work on today. Now let's go back to the idea and where this New Balance spec came from. It's a funny story, actually. The director, Sophia, who was my partner, and I got home from work and sat on the couch, and she looked at me and said, I want to shoot a fashion piece, but I want to make it feel commercial. And that night, she came up with a whole idea as well as a pitch for the project. I am very much an execution style of person when it comes to video production, so it really amazes me how directors such as Sophia can see their ideas clearly and know exactly what they want. But this wasn't a commercial just to make a commercial to fulfill a creative itch. The second part of that conversation was that she wanted to expand her reel and break into the fashion and editorial space. But why this commercial, and why New Balance specifically? One of the main companies that she is represented by, their main client is New Balance. So it only made sense so she could start bidding on those types of jobs and working with the clients she wanted to work with. Now this is super important. You have to look at spec as a business person first before diving into it creatively. Then you can pitch to others in your circle or people that you want to work with. And this is where I come in. And it wasn't, oh, hey, I really want to do this. It was, let's do this together. Let's build a portfolio piece that really defines who we are now. In addition to me, Sophia wanted to collaborate with her friend Stephen Chow as a movement and co-director for the project, which perfectly leads us to the first step of the pre-production process, which is aligning with your director. Director alignment as a cinematographer is simply making sure you and the director are locked in on the same story and visual style. This is very important because every decision you make from now on is based off of your alignment with your director. And this is not just an alignment, this is also a pitch to see even if you're the right person for the project. For example, if somebody pitched me a short film with my portfolio of commercial work, I would be honest and tell them that I may not be the best candidate to shoot their project because it probably won't go well. For this project, it aligned with what I wanted to do, a fashion piece with a commercial look, as well as some complicated camera movements that I really was excited to execute on. And this goes back to the definition of what spec work does, as well as how to define yourself. And me being a cinematographer and pushing this commercial look, this is exactly what I wanted to do. And this goes back to why we are creating the spec, defining who we are as creatives and working for brands that we want to work for in the future. And if I talk to myself as a cinematographer, I am looking to work with a director who's going to push my visual style to the next level. And that creative portfolio work that I want is going to take an investment of time and the one thing we don't like to talk about, which is money. So let's talk about how much a project like this costs. The total production budget of this project was $15,339.20. Whoa, wait. We are saying you spent this much on a spec commercial. Yes, we did, and it was a conversation between Sophia, Steven, and I of if we were to create a commercial that was ours, what would it be? And how much do we want to spend? Listen, it wasn't easy, and we took on a lot of jobs in between that fed into the spec directly. And this is the reality of producing a commercial at this scale. This is something that we want to make look like 6 figures, so we're gonna have to invest a lot into it. But with 3 people coming together to invest in this project, it makes it a whole lot easier. And this is the power of collaboration. So let's break down this budget roughly so you can see where the money went. These are rough estimates, but the location was $4,000. Art department and props was $3,250. Equipment rental, so this included camera and G&E and LES, was $4,600. Talent $250, and crew and labor expenses were around $2,900. Now, this doesn't include the time that so many people invested in this project, as well as they came out on a collaboration basis. And this is just the nature of spec work. And not to mention the amount of gear and personal cameras that Sophia and I own, which helped save a lot of money when it came to the equipment rentals. And I know this breakdown is great to see after the fact, but let's find a place to start when it comes to budgeting, because I feel like that is very important. This will come with experience, but it all depends on what your budget is and how much you want to invest. That is the key thing. You are creating something within your means, and you have to be real with that. And I have to play into my strong suits. I am usually a good numbers person when it comes to estimating labor, gear, and location expenses. And Sophia's expertise is in production design, and this is why her work is so amazing. With an initial storyboard presented and aligning with a look and feel, I got a pretty good idea of what I needed. But one of the most important things is finding the proper location, because a location can make or break your commercial. Remember, we're trying to build a world, and Sophia was the one who found this beautiful house in the west end of Toronto that fit the look of old money and editorial fashion. This was the main thing that she was going for, so she found the proper location. For her, the important things were a large living room with lots of woods and a fireplace, a walk-in closet, and an entryway for the delivery driver. We're not just trying to check off the boxes in terms of these rooms, they have to fit the style of the look and feel that she is going for. We found the location on Set Scouter, and the producer negotiated a price to have the full day for shooting, a location scout day, as well as a tech scout, which is super important. Location scouting is one of the first major steps as a physical step when it comes to being a cinematographer, when you can visualize how the commercial will actually come to life. My location scouting process includes a walk and talk with the director of how they see their vision in the physical space itself. Sure, you can look at pictures and you can talk things, but if you're not in the space, it's really not going to work. For me, I take pictures of all the rooms we want to shoot in, so I can reference them when I'm making my lighting diagrams and any layout diagrams that I really need for the production. Next, I use Sunseeker to figure out where the sun will be in every room at all times, and this is really important, especially if you're working on a budget. Sometimes the sun is going to be your best friend and your worst enemy. And lastly, getting a feel of the location. For this beautiful house, getting a feel was physically sitting in the living room and seeing how the camera would move through the space and building a flexible lighting plan so I could show off the entire space. That's the big challenge when it comes to working with a director who knows exactly what she wants. She wanted to show off the whole room, so I had to light a space like that. Don't even get me started about the closet, because small spaces are the hardest to light, but we'll get to that later. And lastly, looking through the entranceway, because Sophia communicated idea that she wanted to move through this, and I'm like, this is going to be the hardest thing to light. So it's going through the locations, having these conversations, seeing what the director wants to do, and then I'm more of the realist in terms of how we can actually execute it. The most important thing and the biggest piece of advice when it comes to location scouts is not to get stressed about the problems that you may run into. It's first about documenting them, regrouping, and coming up with a creative solution. And this is the main reason for pre-production, and that's what it's all about: creative problem solving, collaboration, and a lot of logistics. So at this point, I have gathered a lot of information. I've aligned with my director, I've established a look and feel, and I've seen the physical location. Where do we move to next? And there's so many directions that you can go. And this is exactly why we created the pre-production playbook. This is my personal pre-production process that I use on spec projects like this, all the way up to six-figure projects. Now, this is a bulletproof system that you can apply to any one of your productions. That I include templates, what resources to use, and even things that you wouldn't even think about in the pre-production process. If you're interested in leveling up your productions and start shooting like a professional, check out the link in the description below, and I'll see you there. And with all this information that I've gathered, I can get to the exciting part of the pre-production process, which is going to be my gear and crew selection. The commercial look is exactly what Sophia was going for in this project, and there are 3 things I like to look at. First is camera movement, second is lensing, and the last is lighting. These aren't any specific order, this is what I just like to look at. Recently I've been shooting a lot of commercials and learning a lot as well, and I primarily have been using the Sony Venice 1. Beside this being our personal camera, this system is one of my favorite to use as I can shoot at a high bit rate for color and VFX, the full frame look, a dual base ISO, as well as single step NDs, which are super clutch. This camera I know in and out, and I can move through scenes fast when it comes to lighting and exposing. I can't stress enough how much I love the Sony ecosystem, even with the Sony FX3. Just using a dual base ISO and then slapping an ND on that really allows me to use not high powered lights. I don't need a bunch of HMIs, 12Ks, 5Ks. I can just use LED lighting to pull off big looks. It gives me the most versatility as a cinematographer and allows me to really focus on the creative, which a lot of people get lost in when it comes to gear. In addition to this, we use the Sony FX3 for the shots in the closet, which pairs perfectly with the Venice. For lensing, I love the look of signature primes as they give you a clean commercial look with high contrast and warm tones. In addition to the signature primes, we use the Lauer 12mm and a probe lens to get a lot of the specialty shots. For lighting, we use our internal kit as well as some additions from our local rental house, Ontario Camera, who is a proud sponsor of this channel, who also provided a lot of the camera gear. Now, based on the needs of the production, my initial crew included a first and second AC so we could move fast, a gaffer and best electric, a key grip and a swing, and as well as a sound recordist because we'll be recording some lines. This is my basic crew size for this scale of commercial, but the main thing I had to plan with my key grip was all the camera movements we had to do. And this is where you have to trust the experts, and for this project that was Oliver Romo, who funny enough reached out to me a week prior of this production to collaborate on something. He is an experienced key grip who knows how to get any camera movement as well as put the camera anywhere I want. And this is the point where I bring my keys in to see the location and start creatively problem solving together. And this is known as a tech scout. To have any project go well, you will have to have a tech scout and shoot a previs on the location if it is possible. For this, all the main keys, including the main talent, were on set to see the location and go through every shot that we wanted to capture on the production day. I cannot stress how important this is because everyone gets to be on the same page, and every department goes through their checklist to ensure that everything is going smoothly. And this is where I'm going to kind of break it down and give you a piece of advice. I know when it's spec and you have so much of your personal money on the line, it's so hard to let go of things and ultimately trust people with your investment. The biggest thing that you can do when you're collaborating, find the professionals and trust them. As a cinematographer, the biggest thing that you can really do for yourself is know your strengths as well as know your weaknesses. With me, I can understand the technicality of light, how to shape it, how to mold it, how to get a specific look. But when it comes to camera movements and moving such a heavy camera and putting it in places where I really want to be, I have to hire a professional, and I know that's not necessarily something I know about yet because I'm not necessarily there in my career. And this is the responsibility of your key grip. They're just not setting up stands. They're allowing the camera move through the space. Once Oliver saw the location, he recommended we get a Pee-wee 4 dolly and combo that with a slider so we can put the camera wherever we wanted. And working on the shoot with that workflow specifically, this is going to be my setup going forward, which I will cover more later on. But besides everyone seeing the location, the next thing we did on this tech scout was shoot a previs. And we just did this on our Sony FX3 paired with a 24-70 as well as a 12mm lens. We went through all the shots and got a better idea of what worked and what didn't. Now, I cannot stress enough how important this step is because all the projects that have previs, the day on set was 10 times easier as well as less stressful. This is mainly because you've already proven to yourself and the director or even client at this point that you can execute the project at a base level. No lighting, just the technical idea and how you're going to execute it. In addition, this allows you to see what will be the easiest shots to pull off, what needs to be dressed first, what needs to be built at what time. The list goes on, and the value that you get out of previs is invaluable. And with all that information, this leads into the next step, which is scheduling your project. This is our master shot list for New Balance. I'm not going to go over everything, but I just want to showcase how important it is to have all this information of how I think I'm going to technically execute it, and then a reference for somebody to look at. Anybody can dive into this document and really understand what's going on at a technical level. But this is going to only be how the edit is going to play out. In an ideal world, we would love to shoot this project on exactly chronological order, but that is never the case because we are working with a tight window, and if you were to do this like that, it would probably take 2 or 3 days just because you're moving back and forth between setups, between dressing. And just because this is a spec and with the budget that we're working with, you can't necessarily do that. So this is where an AD or somebody like yourself will have to reorganize the shot list based on what is going to happen. This is going to be your shot list, but how you're going to execute it on the day. So think about it as a logistic shot list. And if I just talk about one of these shots of why we chose to shoot it first, the hallway where we see the talent running from the living room upstairs to the closet, that is something that is not necessarily going to be touched a lot when it comes to something like the living room or the closet. The living room and the closet requires so much dressing, so much time, and you can't expect a production designer team just to come in that and be ready to light it in 30 minutes. They're going to need a couple hours to do that. So we decided, the hallway doesn't need to be dressed as much. We just need to put up a bunch of picture frames, and that would take 15 minutes, and then I have time to light it. So we can be up and rolling for that shot while the other rooms are being dressed. Now, this is just for the first shot of the day. And then we have a bunch of shots that we have to do after that. So this process of actually logistically figuring out what your shot list looks like is an entire thing in itself, and it takes a lot of time. As well, it takes a lot of time for the directors to go back and forth with me going back and forth with the producer, and me going back and forth with the assistant director coming to me and like, hey, what is the easiest way we could do this? And then talking to the art department. So you can see how this gets confusing, but if you just reference back to the shot list that you originally created and how you want that to flow together, it's really easy. And this is why you need to have a strong basis and why pre-production is so important. With a brief look at the logistics and planning, let's dive into the lighting plans and the lighting diagrams I like to use and create when it comes to projects like this. And the biggest asset that I like to use is Photoshop, and it really allows you to dial in what exactly you're doing. So this is our living room that we're looking at. I don't have the shot reference here because when I was making these lighting diagrams, obviously I didn't shoot it yet. So I knew that I needed a flexible lighting plan because the director wanted to showcase the entire space. And this is one of the hardest things to do as a cinematographer because I need to push a giant daylight look in a wide of a room. Basically putting up the camera in the corner and then putting a 12mm on that. So I knew I needed a lot of power, even though this camera has a dual base ISO. But I knew within my limits, I don't want to set up HMIs or something like that, and I'm not really comfortable. But I was very comfortable with 1200Ds or basically a simple LED package. So this is me knowing that we're going to be in this big room. There's 3 windows that I got information from the tech scout on, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. And this is going to be basically me setting my wide and then working through the shots and bringing in lights as I need. What I really want to talk about here is how to communicate your ideas and what you want to get out of your shoot to the rest of the crew. So this is going to be my camera assistants, which are my camera team. This is going to be my lighting team, which is my gaffer and Best Electric, and this is also going to be my grip team, which is going to be working on the stands, where to place them, as well as where to put the dolly so the camera can land. So automatically when I make a binder of these lighting diagrams, we have the living room, we have the closet upstairs, as well as the doorway when the delivery driver arrives. I'm gonna put these all together and then I'm gonna send them out to my crew beforehand. I have a plan exactly how I want this to look with a reference, as well as where I initially think my lights are going to be. And this is going to come with experience. I encourage you guys, when you're shooting your next production, make a simple lighting diagram, even if it's an interview, and make your lighting diagram, go into your shoot and see where you actually place your lights while looking at an image. And you'll be surprised. A lot of the times you're bang on and you just need some adjustment when it comes to positioning. So always communicate this to your team, and this is the best place to do it. And at this point, we have everything in place to execute this commercial, and creating this binder of assets and sending it out to your team beforehand is going to be the best way to communicate and set yourself up for success on the day. So let's look at what actually happened. In perfect YouTube fashion, I would love to drag this out a little bit longer and leave you with a big cliffhanger that something went totally wrong. Everything went as we planned, with a few hiccups on the way. So I want to focus on those and then talk about how we solved them. Let's start off with how the camera actually was used and move through the space on the day. Other than the 2 shots, the Venice lived on the dolly in combination with the slider, risers, and the 360 lambda head we used to get the spinning shot on the couch. This workflow allowed us to put the camera anywhere we wanted to and really sped up the shoot day. Besides that, art department dressed the place beautifully. My camera and G&E team had every setup dialed in and ready to go, and the directors were working on the talent to get the look and feel from each scene. And it was a perfect harmony between everything that we planned. The only problem that we ran into was the amount of shots that we had to capture on the day. Generally, for a 12-hour day with this size crew and this much planning, you can get away with generally maybe 22 to 24 shots. And we had scheduled 29. So we knew that this was going to be very tight. And the shot that we had the most trouble with was the dolly in as he is trekking the grills on his teeth. This was due to the wax we were using that kept falling off because of his saliva that he was producing. I totally forgot to mention that we had those custom made by Sophia's sister Alessandra, who is a local goldsmith in Toronto. And I would love to dive into this process of Sophia coming up with this grand idea of having custom grills in a piece, then designing that together, and then working with a goldsmith. So if you're interested in something like that, let us know in the comments below. And like I said before, the main problem that we ran into is the amount of shots that we scheduled. It was very ambitious. This really caught up to us by the end of the day, and we had to move as fast as possible to wrap on time. And that was the production. An ambitious day, but because of all of our pre-production, everything went to plan. So let's talk about something a little different and move on to the post-production process and what that looked like coming from this ideation, the pre-production, execution, and then how it all came together. Like I said before, when it comes to spec, you will be wearing a lot of hats. And for me, I was also the editor and sound designer on this project. For those who don't know, I started off as an editor, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoy and really helps me as a cinematographer because I can easily communicate the director if something will cut well together. Because we did a previs, I just dragged the best takes we shot and the edit was pretty much done. And it only took an afternoon to do. I didn't sit down with a bunch of references and really dial in what this edit looked like. It was already established with aligning with the director. And this is why I love working with my partner Sophia so much, because she knows exactly what she wants. I can't even imagine coming up with an idea and the shots connecting so well like it did in this piece. We did outsource the score to our friends Next of Din, who took inspiration from Straight Out of Compton, a reference and direction that we provided. For the VFX, we closely worked with the artist Melissa Vasiliev, based in Toronto, who added her own ideas that really brought the piece together. And I tied everything together with a couple of whips, ambience, footsteps, and whatever sounds that I could add. A pretty easy post-production process because Sophia, Steven, and I are the client, so we already have eyes on everything, and we locked what this was supposed to look like in the pre-production process. Now let's go over some lessons learned and things that I really took away from this project. I feel like the biggest thing when it came to this project was big technical movements. Sophia wanted a new piece in her reel that would really define how her transitions and style looks like. You can see that in all her work, that all the camera movements, all the acting and everything is always motivated. And this was a big challenge for me because I didn't necessarily know how to move such a big camera through a space like that. Technically, when it came to lighting, I was very confident in terms of pulling that look off, but when it came to camera movement specifically, that's something I knew that I would potentially struggle with. You really have to rely on the experts in this case. I am a director of photography. My main job is to direct how the camera is supposed to move, direct how the lighting is supposed to look. I don't need to have my hands physically on the camera and need to move it through the space. If somebody is going to do it better than I can, I am going to hire that person. I'm going to collaborate with that person to do it. You have to drop the ego a lot of the time when it comes to this creative field, especially being a cinematographer. I want to be a point in my career where I can sit beside the director, who hopefully is always going to be Sophia, and look at the monitor and really dial in in what the creative is supposed to look like, how the canvas is supposed to be painted, and how the camera is supposed to move through that canvas. And I feel like that's where I want to go in my career, and I'm making steps towards that by working with people that know and are well skilled in the craft. If you guys enjoyed videos like this where we fully break down what spec commercials look like, what our client projects look like, let us know in the comments below. And guys, share this with everybody, because I feel like there's a lot of information that is safeguarded in this space that we want to share and inspire other people so they can create spec work that defines them. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe for more.